All right, welcome to Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Serrate from Abilene PD in Texas, 32 years experience in law enforcement. Really looking forward to having him on the show. So welcome, Chief Serrate. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Paige. My pleasure.
Of course. Have you always wanted to be a police officer?
Yes, since I was a young boy, I don't even really know where that want came from. I found it fascinating, the badge, the gun, the cars, all of that. But yes, that's been my goal, lifetime goal.
And now, 32 years later, you're still in it, you still love it. What did your career look like for you? How did you see like the career evolve? What are some of the different assignments that you had throughout your career? Maybe give us some background.
Yeah, sure. So I started in Comanche, Oklahoma in 1993. Very small department, four officer department, 1,800 population. Um, very small, like I've said. But yeah, and starting there, I was driven around by the chief of police one day and handed the keys during the night and said, "You have the night shift and let me know if anything happens." And that's how I started with hardly any training. So
Wow.
through my short career there, of 7 years, I had to train myself or depend on the troopers that were close to ride with me and train me, FTO sort of fashion in their own way. And then so I stayed there for 7 years. Um, and then transitioned to Lawton, Oklahoma, Lawton PD, which is a much bigger department, 150 plus officers there. I was already a basic instructor at Comanche, so they immediately transitioned me within a couple of years to FTO and instructor of a couple of specialized things like defensive tactics and driver's training, things like that, since I'd already had all the experience from Comanche. So it was a very quick and short transition to Lawton. Uh, and I trained my early years there for quite a while. And then, let's see, 2005, I moved to operations, which is narcotics. Stayed there for a couple of years till I got promoted to lieutenant 2007. And of course, as most officers do, you go back to the street and patrol when you get promoted. So that's what I did and stayed in that capacity till 2014, 2013, I'm sorry. And then I was given the academy and all the training division commander. So I did that for a couple years and then transitioned, got promoted again to captain, went back to the street again, where I stayed over all the specialized stuff like bike team and honor guard. Still did driver's training, still did defensive tactics, still was very involved with training because that was very important to me. And then got promoted in 2020 to assistant chief over patrol. Stayed in that role for about 2.5 years. And then there was another promotion behind me of another assistant chief. So I moved over to the CID, which non-uniform detectives, and did that for a couple of years and was still very involved with training through all that because that was very important to me. Uh, and then I was kind of at the end of my career, or so I thought, being close to 25 years. And this opportunity in Abilene came up, and talking with my wife, I thought, is that the next step? So she agreed with me that we should try the next step. And it just worked out as God planned and was so easy. And I was fortunate enough to land at a very supportive community and department for police officers. So it's been great so far. So that's my track so far.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing. It's really interesting to me that you said early in your career, you were handed the keys without really any training and said, like, good luck, kid. And then you said that throughout your career, you maybe kind of had to like train yourself and learn on your own, or maybe the resources were limited in the training that you did get. And then a few times through, you giving us background, you said that the training was really important to you, that being involved in defensive tactics and FTO at the academy, that was something that was really important to you. Do you think that the lack of training that you had earlier in your career led to having that passion to train and teach others throughout your career as you progressed?
Absolutely. At the first department I was at, you had to take time off to go to those trainings. So in doing that, it only makes you a better police officer. So having to train myself like that, and then moving into a larger department where they had the focus of training correctly, as in training the officers before they get on the street and some standard, and then transitioning into more important training as they go along to make their career even better, even easier, I would say, as a police officer. It's very important just because of that first step when I was just given the keys and said, call me if you need me. And
Yeah.
of course, on that first night, something did happen. Somebody broke into a liquor store and I had no idea what to do. And luckily, it was one of my friends from high school. So the guy that broke into the liquor store.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So I called him out. I talked to him, and we went back to the station and sat until the chief got back the next morning. And then he told me he'd take care of it. Told me to go home, go to sleep, and he worked out something with the liquor store owner to let him work off his damage to the building. So that was my first arrest, I guess you would say, which is quite a story I like to share with the new rookies when they come in. So to emphasize how important training is, because you never know what you will step into the first time you get in a police car.
Absolutely. And, I think it's also a matter of being prepared and safety, to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to be able to do your job to the best of your ability and to be as safe as possible out there. And I know you said
Absolutely.
that you started working at the academy in the context of wellness. How important do you think it is to at least have some introduction to wellness at an academy level so that the recruits not only have the training that they need for the job, but be able to process some of the things that they're going to see on the job?
Correct. That's very important. And that just came to light, our focus on wellness, I would say 10 years ago
Mhm.
at the outside, because, and the focus to that is awesome because, and officers my age know that when you started, there was never any talk of what can we do for you if you're struggling with the incident. That just never, you didn't talk about it. You had no resources to talk about it. And you were kind of, I hate to say blackballed, but I can't think of another word. You were just ostracized for feeling a certain way. So that we have got over that hump, thankfully. And even in Lawton, where I left, they started a peer group uh, that would deal with those things, have debriefings after critical incidents. And then when I transitioned to Abilene, I always wanted to start a wellness unit for the officers with an officer heading it. And we fortunately had an officer here that was about to retire that everybody respects and loves very much. So he was already in that role unofficially. He just did not know it because they would come to him with their problems and worries, and he would talk to them anyway. So it was a perfect fit for him to just move into a wellness unit role and start that. And he emphasized and grew our peer group there too. So we have him plus peer groups for officers and civilians throughout the department. So that transition to that wellness unit is very important. And you mentioned in the academy, we start there with him,
Mhm.
telling the new officers that you're going to face these things. Here's the resources you have to deal with them. We are not here to uh, tie you up for being uh, in trouble. And trouble is not the word I'm looking for. We didn't want them to think that we were looking for something to get them in trouble for, is the way I need to phrase that. We
Yeah.
wanted them to feel comfortable in coming to one of us and saying, I'm having some issues and I need some help. So I think we've got over that hurdle, uh, or we're getting over that hurdle with the department as a whole, but we're starting with those young people, especially so they know that it's not a bad thing to ask for some help.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I agree with you that, I've been in this wellness space for the last 8 years and I started at an academy level. And even 8 years ago when I started, it very much was kind of like, I don't want to say taboo because I was welcomed there and there were innovators within the academy that are like, yes, this is important. But I think that there was still kind of this head scratch that was going on of like, we've never done this before. This isn't something that we're used to. It's not really a part of the culture. And now, fast forward 8 years and it's something that is well received. It's being implemented across the board as a top priority to, proactively put in place resources as early in their career as possible. So I think that it's progressed quite a bit. When I
A
first
lot,
walked into
yes.
the academy 8 years ago, uh,
Yes, absolutely.
I know, when you and I spoke offline a little bit, you said that you had learned a lot from people who did it wrong or maybe didn't do the right things. And I would say, arguably, that I think I've learned the most from what not to do. Can you
Right.
maybe
Yes.
give a little bit of your experience with that, some of the lessons that you've learned from other people?
Sure. I'll try to do that without throwing anybody under the bus,
Yeah, for
hopefully.
sure.
Well, just in my first story I shared with the first day I started, there is no leader, especially in this career field, that should ever do that to anyone, as dangerous as it is. And they're just the things that could happen are just, looking back at that, I was like, I just still can't believe it actually, especially in this world we live in now. But yeah, that's the main thing that I go back to. And then of course along the way, you have, I call them managers or supervisors who really weren't leaders. They just wanted you to do what you're supposed to do as long as it didn't get them in trouble in any way. Any feedback from anybody, bad or good, was not what they wanted because they just wanted to go through their day and not be bothered.
Mhm.
So I found myself a lot early in my career in, I was saying Lawton, that, you know, leading myself, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to, because you had to make decisions out in the field quickly. And when there's no one around, the supervisor wasn't there, not available, whatever they were doing, they just didn't want to be bothered. So my team and I, in every situation, would just make decisions and live or die by them, basically, which is not the way to do things as leaders. So that those people that do the wrong things like that stick with me. And then getting into the position, a leadership position at the top of an agency, just the little things I found, like just knowing people's names when you cross paths with them in the hallway, goes miles with people, because you know their name. You can have a conversation with them. If you call them out with their first name, they're like, oh, the chief knows my name, especially in big agencies. I know that's a tough ask to do, but I've done my best to do that. And I still kind of forget guys' names, but they give me a lot of grace and help me out, sometimes. So, but that's an easy thing to do. And the other tougher things should come easy too, I would say, but you have to do those things to be the leader in your agency that they expect from you. Love, care, and support them, and mean it, because they can tell when you do not mean what you don't when you don't walk the talk, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I I just had a conversation recently about this, about how whatever it is that you do in life, you have to be authentic because
Absolutely, yes.
people can sniff that out so fast if you're like,
Especially cops, especially
especially
cops. Yeah.
cops. Yeah. And if you're like unauthentically trying to be authentic, it I think that it's such a turnoff and you lose that credibility so quick. And,
Yeah.
I've seen that in different areas of my life, of people being like, well, I'm trying to be authentic so that you then respect me. And it's like, it doesn't land. So I think what you said,
Yes,
you have to mean it, you have to be authentic. And I do think that people want to feel like people. They want to feel like they're a valued member of the organization and not just a number, and not just like a checkbox. And so the small things I do think make a big difference. And you have a fairly large organization, yes? Or,
yes, yes.
yeah,
200 plus.
over 200 people. Yeah, when you were saying that, because I think that the first like kickback to that I would hear is someone saying, well, I have a larger organization, so I can't do that. But for you to say, hey, like I might not be perfect, but I really do put in the effort and try to know as many people's names as I possibly can so that they feel valued, it kind of eliminates that argument of it's not possible as the organization gets bigger.
That's correct. I've called officers by the wrong name, and they just let me do it. And then later someone tells me their name is correct, their correct name, so I go back to that officer and say, why didn't you say something? He goes, I was just happy you talked to me. I don't care what you call me. So I was like, okay, I know your name now. But I got it.
Yeah. And I think it's a reminder too that like effort is effort is free, and it's a huge component of wellness. I think that
Yeah,
the small things make a big, big impact. And you recognizing someone and knowing their name, and then if you get it wrong, going back and being like, hey, I'm sorry, but now I won't forget. That's
right,
that
right.
that contributes to the wellness and the culture within the organization.
And that's such a small thing that goes a long, long way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't not talk about the people that showed good leadership that I try to follow too. Those people that one of my captains that I worked for in Lawton always said, if you work with your people in the street, they will work for you with no problem. I've never forgotten that. So, if you're out there with them doing what they do and just there to help and not trying to take over and micromanage them, that goes miles too. I mean, just I still I can't do it as much here as I want to, but I still try to get out and make traffic stops and go to calls with guys and gals, and that goes miles too. So
I really like that statement. If you work with them, what was it? If you work with
it
them, work.
if you work with them, they will work for you with no problem.
Yeah. No, I
And
really
an example of that is always that when I show up to do something, if I get there before anybody, they take over. They won't let me do anything. They're
yeah.
like, Chief, I got it. I got it. Thank you. We got it. I was like, that's fine. Yeah, I'll do whatever you need. So
Yeah, and I think it goes back to this idea that you guys are a team, you're a family, and if you can create that culture of like, hey, we're in this together, then it helps to support everything, and
that's
they
correct.
and they
Yes,
know that you're like willing to work with them and beside them, and you're willing to do the things that they do as well.
that's right. And they need to hear all the time that I support them. That's the first thing. One of the first things I did when I got to this department was visit all the briefings, especially the patrol men and women, and say, I just want you to be a cop and I will support you. You stay within the policy and the laws and the rules as you know they are, and I will support you. You just go be a cop, make those arrests, chase those people, all those things that you're supposed to do, and I have your back. And that went miles too, more than anything, I think, because they've never heard a person in my position say that, and they need to hear it face to face, not just from a memo or something like that. So
And do you think that that helps to create more confidence out on the street? Because I'm hearing so often that a lot of people are afraid to do their job. And there's a lot of things happening right now in society where it's like, there's so much scrutiny and, you know, eyes on every move.
yeah, yeah,
And so there's this fear of doing your job. Do you think that as a leader saying, hey, like, as long as you're doing the right things, in your training, like I'm going to be there to support you doing your job?
absolutely. And I think we've turned a corner in this country on going back to proactive law enforcement from what it has been. Because you're exactly right. Everyone was afraid to do anything because they didn't want to be that person on the news in that 5-second segment of a video that has no context of you just using use of force wrong
Right.
and then unable to recover from that. That
Yeah.
they need to know that they can go out and do their job. You are absolutely correct.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that approach. And I know that you said when you stepped into this role as a chief, it was really important for you to create a robust wellness program. You convinced somebody to not retire and
Yeah.
to stay in this career to spearhead that. And I was hoping that you could maybe give some insights into some of the successes you've had with that wellness program.
Sure. It is a one-man unit at the moment. It's about to be a one-man and one-dog unit. We got a donation to get the therapy dog. It's not a therapy dog. The lady that trains them won't get me for saying that. Critical incident animal to join the department to join Shannon, which is the name of the officer that runs that unit. So as a conversation piece, and that they are great. Everybody loves dogs. If you start petting a dog, you just automatically start talking. So that's one of the other things I wanted to do was the canine aspect of that. And then when I sat down with the officer to run the program, I said, we both have no idea how to do this. So I don't expect you to wait on me to tell you how to do it. I need you to, go find the resources, tell me what you want to do, kind of make it take shape, and I'll let you, have the reins, if you will, and just come back and let me know what I can do to make it work. And that's what we've done. It's worked tremendously well. We've got a large peer group of civilians and officers that help him uh, with different things, because I might not want to talk to him. I might be more comfortable in talking to someone else and things like that. People talk to other people better than they would talk to one person. So there's several available for them to do that, civilian and officer, like I said. And then we have programs like Warriors Rest, if you've heard of that one. That's in Banderas, Texas. It's a actual facility we can send our officers to recover from, PTSD things or addictions or anything like that.
Mm.
They are work hand in hand with us for those kind of things. And what else? We have a tremendous um, outpouring of support in this community, not only just the police in general, but for this specific thing as well, from a charity organization called Back the Badge Foundation here in Abilene. They have paid for officers' families' funerals, picked up medical expenses, um, just fills in the gap for all those things that insurance or things like that might not add. So that has added a tremendous resource to help our officers when they get not only the mental aspect but financially. When
Yeah.
tragedy happens, they need that help. So that's been a blessing here too. It's a great organization.
And I know in talking offline, you also mentioned, some of the things that you guys do from a physical wellness perspective. I know that you've done some, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you did like some 5Ks, some competitions, like friendly competitions. Um, Maybe what does some of those things look like? How do you incentivize it? How do you get people like on board and excited to do those things? And do you think that physical wellness is an underutilized tool when it comes to wellness?
It is. Let me start by saying it is underutilized. That's the whole picture. Physical, mental health. I spoke to you a little bit offline about the home life. All those things as the overview together make the officer successful in their life, not just their career. Yeah. So the tiny things we've done here. When I got here, the physical fitness program was mandatory.
Mm.
Every October they had the rower. They would do a rower exercise for time based on their weight and a chart, and they'd either get in an A, B, or C group, which gave them days off. And anything you tell an officer he has to do is usually not very successful, and that's what we found is while some would do it, others just would find reasons not to. So I
Mm.
switched it to a voluntary and added some incentives like we extended the days off a little bit and made it team building kind of things. Like we have, we still have the rower where you can do the rower, but we also added the Cooper Institute workout, which is running, sit ups, push ups, and I'm probably leaving something out, but most people are familiar with that one.
Yeah.
Again, times and excuse me, push ups and sit ups based on your weight and your age. And then we added this year we paid for a 5K for everybody to participate in. Got a pretty good turnout there. I think 30-ish officers signed up for that. We just also did a weightlifting challenge called the 1,000 Pound Club, where you did bench, squat, and deadlift to equal 1,000 pounds through a graphing system. That was very successful. And the rewards on top of the days off are little trinkets that all the police officers love. This is just see, that's all that is. 45, and then and if you get the A group, you get a little bar with a little podium kind of stand thing that they can put on their desk,
Yeah.
and they just love that stuff, which I do too. So I don't
Yeah.
blame them. Yeah,
Yeah.
just things like that, just a team building. And then we give them an hour a week to work out, paid. And then we have a huge gym. If you looked at our on our page, there's a drone video of it. It's a college D1 based gym. It's got absolutely everything in it you could want in a gym. So all those things are working out very well for our physical and mental health of our officers. So very proud of it.
Yeah, that's great. And I love your like, yeah, trinkets, stickers, like how can
Yeah,
we
t-shirts,
incentivize? Yeah,
anything is, yeah,
and get people excited about it.
yes,
And I agree with you. I think that physical wellness is an important component to mental wellness. And I'm glad that you guys are having a lot of success in building that team environment. And, I think that everything spreads, and the more you can try to spread positive outlets, then the less people are going to feel like they have to reach for negative or destructive outlets. So
yes,
I
yes.
think that, it takes time, but I love all the things that you're doing. And I know that you said something about family wellness, and I want to touch on that because I think that is a really important component because it's a reminder that you don't just have work life, you have home life. And how important do you think it is to have a strong life or unit? And I know maybe some officers maybe don't have a family yet, but they can have, a unit of friends or, something outside of the job that keeps them grounded. And maybe what are some of the things that you've experienced in that realm, and how have you created a strong family unit?
Yes, it is very important for officers to have outlets besides the police department and your police friends. We tend to be a very clicky people because we stick to our own, and then that's hard to you get to, or in my case anyway, you got to where you had only police friends
Mhm.
to interact with, and then you're at home with your family less than you are at work because of overtime and all these other things that you can do as a police officer that we all tend to do. We all take those other jobs, and then you kind of start neglecting your family and you don't even realize it. So that family aspect of this is very important in this job. My wife actually came up with the plan when we got to this department of a wives group, which is her and my other three assistant chiefs' wives. They go to the academy and meet the new wives or spouses of the new cadets, have a little question and answer with them of, what to expect and in police life because the officer is not the only one that gets the badge, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it. The whole family gets the badge,
Yeah.
so they kind of work through those things with them and give them resources too. They have the same resources that the officers do, as much as we can afford to get them places if they need help. uh, they're still in the mix with the foundation for help if they need it. Just things that we all didn't have when we started. That especially the wives, spouses tend to be left out of. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the training. And that's worked out very well. We've done that for two academies now, and it's very positive. Very good feedback from the new wives and groups, and getting them together like that makes them have someone to reach out to too with the other wives of the new cadets. So they've taken on that very well. So that's worked out well. And I think that's very important to the family life I'm talking about. Because they have to have a resource too, for to go to if they need help. And we give them that and tell them that, you know, we just briefly touch on your husband or wife may have these type of issues may come up, as far as an incident at work. And if they're not talking to you, there's a reason.
Mhm.
And if you need us to help you, we will, but you need to look for these kind of signs. Just things like that weren't ever given to us as young officers when we started.
And I think that, ultimately you don't want anyone to feel like they're alone, and you want
Right.
everyone to feel like they have the resources. And I love that you have recognize the need for resources within the home, because I would imagine that it can be really isolating as a partner, not knowing what to do, who to talk to. You might not have anyone else, as a spouse in your life that is also married to someone in law enforcement, and so you wouldn't know where to go. I have a kind of a funny story, but I think it relates to this. I've been in this space for a while, but I had this guy who'd been in law enforcement forever. And he walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, like, I just want to let you know that I shared my login, for our app with my wife. And now she's less stressed dealing with me. So we're both happy. So thank you." And it was like kind of this
That's
funny
correct. Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And it was one of those eye openers for me where I was like, yeah, like, wow, okay, if we can provide these resources and make it available for the spouses, and that can benefit them too, and now they have less stress, and now there's
yeah.
less stress within the home, then that's a win. So I'm glad that you guys are recognizing that, because it's something that happened for me organically, where I was like, yeah, that makes total sense, but maybe it's something that a lot of people don't or haven't thought about yet.
Yeah. I just think the spouses are left out. They don't think about them because they're worried about getting the officers going
Yep.
and out on the street. And we are probably one of the very few who, when you start, you're at the whim of seniority. You may start on a day shift, and then in 6 months you're on an evening shift, and then 6 more months you're on a night shift. So working out the babysitting details and all those things, you need other people in the same role profession to sort those things out and tell you what to do and where to go and who to ask for help. So
Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask you, because I know that this is something that's a passion of yours and is really important to you. What is your ultimate why? Why is wellness so important to you specifically?
it's a deep question, Paige. Why? It's just that if you're everything we've talked about in this conversation, if you can get the physical, mental, and home stuff correct, that's the wellness overall. All those things tied together and are dependent on each other to be successful. So that's the why of all these things I've tried to do here is to, like I've said before, love, care, and support these officers. Not just here. They need to be loved, cared, and supported throughout life. After retirement, I want them to have retirement and actually do something and live past the average of a police officer when they retire. Have something to enjoy. There's just other things more important than this job, and I want them to remember that. So
Yeah,
that, I guess, a large answer is my why.
thank you. And I hope that, and I believe that with time, we're going to see more of this culture of wellness grow. And I do think it's so important for everyone to know that they're important and they're valued and that they have the support of their organization. And I hope that everyone has as many years in retirement as they do in the career, which we know
Yeah,
is
no
the
kidding. Yeah.
reality right now. But um, I had someone say recently, they're like, I really want all my officers to be able to suck the pension dry or
Yeah,
something,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, use it all. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. And I know that
Sure.
you're doing a lot of really, really great things. And I wanted to ask you, what do you still think is maybe one of the biggest challenges in the wellness space, and how can we maybe start taking steps to solve those challenges?
I would say just money,
Mm.
budget wise, across the nation is the same thing. We had no um, budget. I would say budget. We had no space for what I'm doing, but I just did it. You have to, and for the other chiefs that watch this, if you're thinking about starting a wellness unit, there will never be enough people and enough money to do it. You just have to start it. You just have to go. You have to figure it out and do it, or you'll never get it done. So the money aspect and the buy-in from this city is very, very positive. And the city management, city council, they're all about helping us. So that has helped a lot in getting all this stuff going. So I'm very fortunate there. Most chiefs don't have that support to
Yeah.
do things like this. So You just have to step off the cliff and go.
I love that. Thank you for giving advice to other leaders who are maybe like, I don't know how to start. And, we don't have the money or the time or the people. And I appreciate that perspective of like, got to take the leap.
That's right. Never going to have either of those two. Just do it.
My last question for you is what words of advice would you give to someone who's earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you would have known or something that's helped you along the way.
Yeah. I don't know where I heard this from. I'm probably stealing it from someone, but it's you don't have to have a rank or title to be a leader. You can any job, any career, especially this one, you just need to do what's right and other people will follow you. Make decisions when they're hard to do and quickly if they're needed. And then you're a leader automatically because you honestly are one as soon as you put this badge on. And I just don't think other officers realize that for quite some time, but you don't have to have anything on your collar or rank or brass to do that to be a leader.
Great words of wisdom. Thank you. I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for spending the last hour with me. And I loved your words of wisdom. So thank you.
Thank you, Paige.
Of course, we'll stay in touch.